Well, that's more like it. Week 1 was kind of a fantasy dud. Week 2 was a fantasy monster. What a week, and welcome to the show. Sunday night, recapping the 1 and 4 p.m. games here as we get ready for Sunday Night Football here on CBS Sports Fantasy Football. Today, I'm Adam Azer with Heath Cummings and Dave Richard. Guys, last week, we had 3 quarterbacks score 25 or more 25 or more fantasy points in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues, non-decimal scoring. This week, we've had, I think, 13. I wrote 12, but then I think the Hail Mary, which is like a perfect cap to the first slate of games, right? Amazing. And don't forget the Thursday game was a bonanza, too. I think 13. So that's already 10 more than last week, and we have 3 games left.
I can really only think of one game where we had really high expectations and the results disappointed.
The Chiefs game.
The game of the week.
Yeah.
What was the game of the week last week? It was Browns.
Bengals.
It was terrible. It was a terrible game.
Joe Burrow had like 1 fantasy point.
I need to explain something about the game of the week. It's not the big fantasy bonanza. That's
right.
It's just supposed to be a good
clearly.
game.
It's just to bug me now.
These were one-score
game.
These are one-score games, right? They were close, competitive.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs-Jacksonville kind of was. It was a 1-score game because the Chiefs decided to kneel at the 2-yard line.
That's true. Yeah, those were duds. All right, so you know who to sit next week. Who's the biggest winner, Dave Richard, from Fantasy Week 2?
How about a name that you gave everybody before the season and no one paid any attention, but Josh Reynolds of the Detroit Lions, who is still sitting on waivers in a ton of leagues. 6 targets. What does he do when he gets 6 targets, Adam?
Yeah, it's like 15 or more fantasy points, 12 or more. I forget what it was.
Well, he had 12 just on 2 touchdowns, but he also had 5 catches for 66 yards on top of it. And if he keeps playing like this, we don't know what Jameson Williams is going to be when he comes back.
Yeah. Dave froze for a second there. Heath.
Good. I was glad that wasn't me. I agree.
Believe
Dave.
it or not,
who knows?
ends up being
Believe it or not.
he ends up mattering all season long.
Yeah, no, you froze a little bit there. So
yeah, of course I.
Okay. You're just getting warmed up. That's okay. So I think he's 20% rostered. Do you think Josh Reynolds should be more than 50% rostered?
Yes.
40 to 50% sounds really. I think he should be at least twice as rostered.
But this is not a must start, right? This is maybe right. A must roster, but not a must start. But good for him.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dave. Like one of the other wide receivers Dave as a winner has got to be the big winner, or at least one.
Well, I mean, the big winner is Puka Nacua.
All right, so yeah, that's what we got to talk about here. He set the NFL record, shattered it. I think. How many catches did he have today? Did he have 15?
You have any more, Dave?
20 targets, 15 catches, 147 yards. It's a bad receiving average because it's not 10 yards per catch, but he was well ahead of that before the end of the game. Just continued to get open against zone coverage. Good route running. He had a drop in the game, a couple of drops actually in the game. So he should have had even better numbers. But holy moly, if he's going to keep getting work like this, even if you cut it in half when Cooper Kupp comes back,
yeah,
it's a guy who you can absolutely use in fantasy. Of course, he's a bigger winner than Josh Reynolds. I was trying to give you props for Josh.
Oh, that's okay. I appreciate that. No, Puka Nacua set the rookie record most catches in the first 2 games of a career. I think he had 4 more than the next best. All right, Heath, who's your big winner?
I'll go with another guy who might only matter for 2 more weeks. Zach Moss, 100% of the Colts running back carries, 100% of the Colts running back targets. Doesn't really matter how bad the matchup is in this offense, I don't think, if you're doing that. He is going to be a starter at running back until Jonathan Taylor returns. And it's possible that this video coming out showing that Jonathan Taylor can now run and cut is just to say to the Dolphins or another team, come get me. It might be that Zach Moss is the starting running back for the Colts for the rest of the season.
Or it could be to say to the Colts, I'm going to be able to pass that physical. Don't think about trying to play games with my status. Because they could, if they can figure out a way, if they could weasel their way to keep him on PUP for the whole year, then his contract holds.
But what's the point of that? If you don't want to
because
pay
then
him,
they control his contract for another year.
But you don't want to pay him or trade him right now. Why do you want to have that option again next year?
Because they might be able to get more in trade for him by then.
I do not think his trade value will increase by sitting out for a year.
All right, Zach Moss is a winner. He is only 57% rostered, and like Heath said, he got every touch of running backs.
Heath, is there anything the Colts do that makes a lot of sense?
I think it seems to me like drafting Anthony Richardson made a lot more sense than a lot of us thought it did when they did it at number 4 overall. I think that was a very good pick.
I think it's looking pretty good. Now, he did leave with a concussion, and that stinks, but I was going to say it wasn't really that bad of an injury day either. And then they had the Saquon Barkley thing. So we'll get to the injuries in a little bit. Barkley limping off with 1 minute and 8 seconds left, I think.
That was the worst.
But I got to go back to something Heath said here. Were you saying it facetiously, or do you really not think Puka Nacua is going to matter when Cooper Kupp comes back?
I think it's like what's happening with Puka is he's playing that Cooper Kupp role that could earn 20 targets in a game because Cooper Kupp does that sometimes. I think it's very possible that Puka could be a number 3 wide receiver who sometimes falls flat once Cooper Kupp's back. Now, just like I said, Jonathan Taylor might come back and be traded. Cooper Kupp's old enough with a hamstring injury that's apparently kind of a chronic thing. Maybe he can't get healthy, and so Puka stays the number 1. But I think if Cooper Kupp comes back and is the number 1, then you're hoping that Puka's a number 3 wide receiver.
Let's see. Last week, Tutu Atwell had 8 targets. This week, Tutu Atwell had 9 targets. Yeah. I would imagine that would be the range for Nacua once Kupp comes back.
Yeah, well, another good game for Atwell, too. All right, who's the biggest loser of week 2? Heath.
I hate to say this. Justin Fields. I gave him last week, as a grace period, but I don't feel like he's improved at all in the pocket or in his processing. I'm very concerned as a dynasty manager, specifically. Like this year, he's going to be the starting quarterback all year, and he's probably going to run enough to be a low end starter. It's fine, but I'm not sure that he's going to take the next step.
So you don't really have a lot of hope for him to be a top 5 quarterback this year or around that?
If you told me that Anthony Richardson was going to play every game the rest of the season and not leave early, I think I'd rather have him.
He was 6 of 10 for 95 yards at halftime.
Fields.
Yeah.
He takes a lot of sacks too, and he fumbles a lot. He fumbled twice. He didn't lose either of them, but
he had some interceptions.
Yeah, he struggled. He scored about 17 fantasy points today.
It's crazy.
16.5.
He was actually, I think he was better in the first half and more aggressive in the first half. And then he kind of went back into his shell in the second half.
Well, the first drive, he had multiple downfield completions to DJ Moore. It seemed like when everything was scripted and they said, just drop back and throw it. Don't decide whether you think he's open, just throw it. And he did that. And then he wouldn't let go of the ball. You're right, Adam. He just holds on to it way too long.
Yeah. I mean, 3 of 8 in the third quarter for 22 yards.
6 sacks.
Fourth quarter. Yeah, he's a sack machine.
And most of those I don't think are the offensive line's fault.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he just tries to do too much, I think. All right, well, look, Fields showed last year that he could be not a great quarterback and a great fantasy option. So after 2 weeks, he scored 33 fantasy points in 2 games. But do you think he's a buy low?
I think he probably is. I think you could definitely dangle a quarterback who might have had a terrible week 1 and a good week 2, or a good week 1 and a terrible week 2, and turn him into Justin Fields. Then you've got to hope that Justin Fields does what he did last year. Slow start, something clicks, Bears go crazy, Fields has good numbers.
Who are the guys who have, in terms of that buy low opportunity, who are the guys at quarterback who have passed Fields in terms of public perception?
After 1 game, Tua Tagovailoa. We'll see how he does on Sunday night against the Patriots. I think Richardson, if he comes out of the concussion protocol, I think people might rather have him at this point.
Yeah, but Heath, I don't think would sell Richardson for Fields.
Goff.
Yeah,
I think just past him. Cousins for sure.
If I could sell Goff for Fields, I would absolutely do that.
What about Cousins? That's a good call. Would you trade Cousins for Fields?
I would, for sure.
Okay, well, that's very reasonable, very doable.
Who's your other quarterback when you make this move?
You're getting one back.
I think if you're getting Justin Fields on your fantasy team, you need to have a plan B. And if Justin Fields is on your fantasy team right now, you need a plan B.
All right. Oh, you guys are giving me a little like some bust vibes on Justin Fields. Okay. All right. Dave, who's your biggest loser? By the way, Fields is at Kansas City, which might have a better defense than we thought. Pretty good so far at Kansas City next week. Dave, who's your biggest loser?
Oh, we were so excited about Joshua Kelly getting that opportunity against Tennessee, just the chance to play and get a lot of work, didn't we? 13 carries, 3 yards per carry. Look at all those catches. He didn't have any. He had 1 target in the game. This was a Justin Herbert game plan. He threw downfield quite a bit. Joshua Kelly we thought he'd be the guy that could at least get some decent numbers. Nope. 3.9 fantasy points. Massive loser. Opportunity to be the 1B for LA. And I don't even know if he'll stay in that role. I don't know if they've got a good 1B at this point. Get well soon, Austin Eckler.
It faced the Titans, though, so that was not – we knew that was going to be an obstacle for him. A.J. Dillon was similarly not great. I mean, 15 for 55 and 1 catch. So it's – we tell you to pick up –
Josh Kelly's jealous.
You pick them up, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. All right, let's talk about some other podcasts that we have for you. We have so many friggin' podcasts. Go to cbssports.com/podcasts. We have Heat's Dynasty podcast. Every Tuesday, get an update on the latest Dynasty values. Oh, boy, in our Big Burger Dynasty League, I played the team that is tanking, and thank goodness I played the team that is tanking. It wouldn't have been a good week for me if I wasn't playing Team Tank.
Schaefer crushed me.
Did he?
Yes.
Oh, nice work, Schaefer. Let's see. So the team win now is 0-2. You changed your team name. You changed your team name in there.
My team name is Loser ! Because that's what one of my coworkers called me on air.
Oh, I thought, okay. I don't know who did that. That's not appropriate. Anyway, we got Morning Combat. We've got a couple of soccer podcasts. We've got college football. Great stuff. All right, news and notes. Anthony Richardson did leave with a concussion. Gardner Minshew came in and played fine. And they're at Baltimore next week. Joe Burrow aggravated his calf injury. So this is a pretty big deal, right? I mean, how do you guys feel about this? Zach Taylor said Burrow could have gone in, but he hasn't looked great through 2 games. And, he's not 100%. That's clear. So, Heath, how you feeling about this?
Did he aggravate it before he started playing week 1? Because
I guess he said they asked him how he was playing and how he was feeling after week 1, I think. And he said good enough. And then late in this game. So it wasn't to blame the entire game. It was late in this game. He re-aggravated it.
Yeah, I don't feel good about it. I didn't actually draft any Joe Burrow, so I don't feel too bad about it. But I don't think you have any choice but to continue starting him. If the Bengals start him, you have to start him. It's almost like you wish they would give him a couple of weeks off and you could start somebody else, but you can't sit him if they're going to play him. You have to assume that he's okay.
Let's talk about Chase later because Chase is off to a terrible start.
Chase should have had a touchdown. There was a 3rd and 5 play in the first half. They were deep in the red zone. Burrow nailed him in the chest. Just a great play by a Ravens defensive back. I didn't get the name on a back shoulder throw. It should have been 7. And Ravens just broke it up, and that sucked for Chase. T. Higgins came alive. I think Burrow looked better in the second half. I don't know if he got hurt late in the game, and that's kind of like what we're facing with now. But I actually thought he shook off all the rust by the time, like the end of the 3rd quarter.
Who, Chase? Or
no, Burrow.
Burrow. Okay.
No, Burrow looked rusty last week, and there were some timing issues in the first half this week. And then in the second half, I'm going over my notes now. The interception at the goal line on a throw to Higgins was terrible.
Yeah.
And then after that, he started to they dinked and dunked a little bit more. I think he started to look better then, but if he aggravated the injury in the 4th quarter or before, you got to keep an eye on it. It's the Rams next week. It's pretty clear that the Rams are not going to be pushovers. So that is not going to be an easy matchup for Burrow.
All right, running back injury. David Montgomery left with what looks like a thigh bruise. And then I think to the dismay of many people, Craig Reynolds came in and was really the running back. Gibbs was on the field a lot, but I don't know if we want to save it because I have a worryometer segment, but maybe we'll save it. We'll talk more about Chase. We'll talk more about Gibbs there. But look, I mean, Gibbs had a ton of catches, but it's not what we were hoping yet.
He was dominating playing time after the injury.
But not really, though, because he wasn't being the running back. He was dominating them as a receiver.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll take that too. He played 71% of the snaps after Montgomery got hurt. All 5 of their snaps on 3rd and 4th down, and their 1 snap inside the 10. Their other running back is Craig Reynolds, who's a decent, solid guy. But if Montgomery's out, Gibbs will be the main guy.
I will just say, and I see the things that gets everybody excited and wants less David Montgomery and more Jahmyr Gibbs. Like when he runs in a straight line, he's super, super fast and he's got good moves, but he's not seized this opportunity. He's made some mistakes. I don't think he's going to get a huge share of the rush attempts if Montgomery's out.
All right, Devontae Adams was evaluated for a concussion. We'll keep an eye on that. Late in the game, that happened. Garrett Wilson left in the 4th quarter, but he appears to be fine. But Saquon Barkley limped off in the 4th quarter, and that did not look good. And they have a Thursday game at San Francisco. So we'll keep you posted on that. But are you guys going to be looking to pick up Matt Breida, even if, like, let's say it's a multi-week absence? Because I know we're not going to start Breida in week 3 against San Francisco. But no, you're saying no, Heath. Multi-week would be different.
It depends on how multi-week it is.
Okay.
But it's going to have to be like a month.
Cam Akers was inactive, and Kyron Williams took advantage. 2 touchdowns today and a boatload of catches. You guys want to talk about that? Kyron Williams, rest of season? Is he a starter?
I think he was a big winner. One of the biggest winners. But yeah, I think what we said this morning was he's a starter after this week, but don't start him against the 49ers. He made us look silly. We didn't expect Cam Akers to be out. I thought it'd be like 60-40 Kyron Williams. The only hesitation I have is we saw this last year, like almost exactly this time. What was it, week 3 or week 4? Cam Akers was all of a sudden like sent away from the team, maybe going to be traded. And then 3 weeks later, he was the starting running back again.
All right, I'll fly through the rest of the notes here. We had Dallas guard Zach Martin left in the 4th quarter. Amon-Ra St. Brown had some cramps. So did Travis Etienne. Detroit lost an offensive lineman in the 4th quarter. Hala Vaitai. Calvin Ridley hobbled off in the 4th quarter. I don't think there's anything bad there.
He came back.
Colts center Ryan Kelly left with a concussion. Odell Beckham left with an ankle injury. Jim Harbaugh didn't think it was a huge deal.
What about John Harbaugh?
He also, Jim was fine with it. John said, though, that he was cool, that Beckham was okay. Probably. Washington tight end Logan Thomas left after taking a vicious and very cheap hit in the end zone. And it was a touchdown catch, but Thomas actually came back. So good for him. That was a really dirty hit. DK Metcalf left and come back. This was a day of people leaving and coming back. And there's some defensive injuries that I'll update you on later in the week, hopefully tomorrow. And Cooper Kupp could apparently be back in week 5. That's the hope for the Rams. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the waiver wire. We've got winners and losers, and we've got a recap of each game. Oh, and the worryometer. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. All right, so who's the big waiver wire pickup? What do you guys think, Dave? Little Zach Moss in there. What do you think? Baltimore, though, in week 3. But who's the waiver wire gem?
I guess Moss will be popular.
Yep.
It just makes sense. People are running out of running backs at this point, and here's a guy that just played every single snap, save for 1 against Houston. And the matchup against Baltimore's tough, but it's a huge opportunity. He's got some tough matchups coming up. It's Baltimore. It's the Rams. I guess the Rams isn't that bad. Tennessee after that. But by the time we get to that Tennessee game, it could be Jonathan Taylor. He looked like the Zach Moss that we remember. And the other thing about him is that he does have a very long history of injuries. I mean, he broke his arm in August. So constantly battling injuries. So I have a hard time believing that Zach Moss is going to be like the league-winning type. But you're looking for running backs that you can get by with, and he certainly qualifies.
I think he can win you 2 weeks.
What about the Baltimore matchup, though? Is this like another Josh Kelly versus Tennessee? Zach Moss against Baltimore.
We've seen the Ravens do a good job against running backs for 2 weeks in a row. I don't have any reason to believe that the Colts have a solution to beat them to beat that back.
I think it'd be a high-end flex, low-end number 2. The guy I was going to say was Tank Dell. Noah Brown goes on the IR. Tank Dell gets 10 targets. Now, they threw the ball a lot. What was it? 47 pass attempts for CJ Stroud. But that's not that much different than what happened in week 1. They're really bad. They're probably going to throw the ball a lot. And we knew coming into this year there was a connection between Stroud and Dell. And I love seeing it in week 2, a rookie earning double-digit targets. So I'll be adding Dell.
Dell's fun too. Like he's the type of receiver where one big catch can make the day.
Yeah.
We saw, I mean, he had a 23-yard touchdown. He's capable of catching a 73-yard pass. He's just super fast, lean. But if he's going to lead the Texans in targets and be right up there with Nico every week, then by all means, man.
And I think he could be. Like the thing about him is I know the height is what keeps people away, but he has elite traits. Like I think in terms of upside, he has more upside than Nico Collins.
Sure.
It's just, can he overcome the deficiency?
They have thrown 47 and 44 times in 2 games. Did not expect that from the Texans. And we'll talk about Damian Pearson a little bit as well. I think we'll throw him on the worryometer.
We should talk about the Ravens running backs. I'm looking right now to see what their rostership is. It's a weird situation between them because Justice Hill, available in 40% of leagues, led them in snap share, played half of their 3rd and 4th downs. Inside the 10, he played 6 of 7 snaps. The one snap he didn't play on, Gus Edwards scored a touchdown.
He also had all of the running back targets.
Well, I mean, that's to be expected. Gus Edwards, he's already rostered in too many leagues. He's at 83%, so never mind. But I wonder if they make a switch and make it even closer to 50-50 and give Gus the inside the 10 work. There were a lot of plays where Hill did not impress.
Gus Edwards, from a comment in the chat, Gus Edwards hasn't caught a pass since 2020.
Might be true. That might
I think that's true, actually.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about our winners and losers here. We've actually spoken about a number of them already. For Dave, he had Puka Nacua and Josh Reynolds. And Drake London started 23% of leagues. Drake London goes off. Well, you know, by his standards. 6 catches, 67 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets. That was after a catchless game on 1 target. Desmond Ridder went from 18 pass attempts in week 1 to 32 pass attempts in week 2. So Drake London, are you going to have any faith in starting Drake London, knowing when to start him? He's at Detroit, then at Jacksonville. Maybe they'll have to throw more. What do you think?
Exactly. Like the only game that you might worry about him is week 5 against Houston. That'll be the.
I'm going to worry about him every week.
You can worry about him all you want. He's at least a flex. We finally saw a game where Desmond Ridder attempted 30 passes. He looked to London in some clutch situations. There was like a 3rd and 15 play where he just threw it up nice and high for London to catch it and come down with it. I believe the touchdown was on an improvisational play. These are the things that I like to look for when it comes to receivers. And look, last week was terrible. Barely got targeted. First target of the game went to Drake London.
I have a confession. I benched Drake London for Joshua Kelly today.
I benched DJ Moore for Jerry Jeudy today. So we all make mistakes. But that's the thing. I mean, I feel like people are going to maybe pull their hair out trying to figure out when to start Drake London. You tell me we're going to start him at Detroit next week?
Yes.
All right.
At least as a number 3 receiver.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, look, I'm not sitting here saying that he's about to win you your fantasy league. No. But I think he's back in our good graces now.
I don't know if you could, but if you could, would you trade Drake London for Garrett Wilson?
Yeah.
Yes.
And Zach Wilson is not going to be the quarterback for the Jets much longer.
I think that's probably true. I hope.
How about Heath's winners? We had Geno Smith and Tyler Lockett and Zach Moss. We talked about Moss. So let's talk about those Seahawks, that combo. Geno, 27.1 fantasy points. I don't even know if he's like a top 8 quarterback this week. It's crazy. And Tyler Lockett with 2 touchdowns, 8 catches, 59 yards, 2 touchdowns. So that was encouraging against the Lions.
I was telling Dave before we went on air that I felt like an idiot for about 4 hours, maybe 5 hours this afternoon, because I, in 2 different leagues, benched Geno for Daniel Jones and Russell Wilson. It ended up working out okay. But no, it was so encouraging to see him against a team that has a decent pass rush. without either of his starting tackles, and they were able to protect him, keep him upright. He was successful, took advantage of all of his wide receivers, but Tyler Lockett, 10 targets in this game. Nobody else had more than 6. Like, this whole DK Metcalf is going to take Tyler Lockett away. JSN is going to take targets away from Tyler Lockett. I don't think anybody's taking anything away from Tyler Lockett.
Metcalf left the game for a spell.
Yeah,
That could have played a role in why he only had 6 targets.
Yeah.
But you know as well as everybody else, Heath, that there's going to be games where Lockett has the target volume that we love, and then the week after that, it goes back to DK. I'm just glad that Geno looked pretty good in a tough spot with 2 backup tackles against the Lions on the road. And Geno, I thought, made some great throws in the game.
Yeah, I mean, that game has had a lot of storylines. You know, you had the Lions running back, but again, I know it was a bad day efficiency-wise for Ken Walker, but the role is still excellent for him. The role is still excellent for Travis Etienne, although you might see the snap count looked a little wonky because at the end of the game, Etienne left because of the
cramps. Yeah.
But we're looking at some of those battles here, and Charbonnet not really making much of an impact right now. So,
including at the goal line.
Right, exactly.
Huge deal.
Yeah.
I will say if Charbonnet keeps turning 17 carries into 43 yards, Charbonnet's probably going to get a little more work.
If Walker does, yeah.
Walker does, yeah.
All right. Well, and I got to throw this out there because I brought it up going into week 1. The Lions' run defense in the second half of the season was really, really good, except for one game against Carolina where they were terrible. But they were great against Pacheco. They were great against Ken Walker. I know he scored the 2 touchdowns, but he really did nothing other than that. All right, those are the winners. Let's go to the losers. Heath, you had Justin Fields as a loser. And now Dave had Javonte as a winner. Heath, you had Samaje.
I did not have Javonte as a winner.
Oh, you had him as a loser.
Javonte as a loser.
Okay, you each had a separate Broncos running back as a loser, so this will be interesting. Heath, you had P. Ryan as a loser. He had 4 touches.
4. I think my case is a little easier to make. Adam just made it. He had 4 touches. Jaleel McLaughlin scored a touchdown. I don't know if P. Ryan had a touch in the first half. He was just completely off the board. This turned over much quicker than I thought that it would. I'm glad we got 1 startable week out of Samaje P. Ryan. I'm not sure we get another one.
P. Ryan did not have a touch in the first half.
Yeah.
Samaje P. Ryan led the Broncos with a 50% snap share. He played 10 of 14 snaps on 3rd and 4th down, 5 of 7 snaps inside the 10. Javonte played 45%. Jaleel McLaughlin, 3 snaps, and yet he was in on a touchdown run. It was a speed play to the left side. So it made sense that he was in there on that specific play. I'm going to go back and watch again for the second week in a row, but from what I saw with Javonte, I did not see. I saw one nice run. He had a 15-yard run. Not sure he had anything else that was good on top of that. This is an offense that the stats are going to look a little bit better because Russ hit some deep shots, including a Hail Mary. I'm not a big fan of what I'm seeing from the Broncos so far to start the year.
Yeah. Don't you think it looks better than last year, though? Last year, they looked clueless and helpless. This
Much
year,
better than last year.
Yeah, it's better than last year.
All right.
But Russ was still 18 of 32.
I mean, I could argue that Javonte is a winner because he had 12 carries and the other guys had a combined 2.
He had 14 total touches for 58 total yards.
I mean, it's not a great game. I get that.
Right. So, like, how do you feel confident?
No, I don't.
Starting him moving forward.
Not
Is
yet.
that Miami next week? Okay.
I'd probably start him against the Dolphins.
Yeah, like Dolphins and Bears are the next 2 games. Then he's got the Jets, the Chiefs, the Packers, the Chiefs, a bye. Buffalo.
I think that broader point, if you drafted Javonte Williams thinking he was going to be a starter early in the season, I think that was kind of wishful thinking, right?
We didn't draft him until round 7.
I know
Nobody
that.
did that. Yeah.
I'm saying I know we didn't, right? So I think you had to play the long game with Javonte. And I think at least from a usage standpoint, this was a very encouraging step of him just completely owning the carries.
Yeah, but he didn't play on these value touches that we want our running backs to play on. Okay. Let's see if he even played 1 snap inside the 10.
Okay.
Like that's a problem. Now, and it might get fixed in a couple of weeks.
Right.
That's the one thing I'll say about Javonte is that right now he doesn't look like he's running with a lot of explosion. but 3 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now, he might.
Right.
This is what happens with guys that are coming back from the ACL.
And then I had Quentin Johnston, and like we are really close. I think he got dropped in a few leagues after week 1. He's going to get dropped in a lot more after week 2. And I'm going to keep telling people don't drop him, but it's going to get harder and harder to hold on to him. Like in a day where Justin Herbert throws it 41 times, he gets 2 targets and catches one of them for 7 yards. It's very discouraging usage.
You know,
Javonte played 1 snap inside the 10. Russ got sacked on it.
You know who I dropped Quentin Johnston for?
Let me think of the worst backup. Josh Kelly.
No, I dropped him for Jamie. Jamie Eisenberg.
Oh, there he is.
Jamie's here. Happy Sunday. Start of the week. Whoop, 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 whoop. Nice.
Thank you.
Sounded like when my grandma would have celebrated the same way.
Oh, Jamie, terrific call on the start of the week. That's Dave's grandma. All right, let's go to Dave's losers. He's got Javonte Williams and then AJ Dillon and Josh Kelly. I don't know. We good there, Dave?
We kind of talked about all 3.
Yeah.
My grandma was a whiskey drinking, curse like a sailor type of gal. I miss her.
All right, let's do the worryometer. All right, I got to go to X here because I said who's on your worryometer. So let me see some of the replies. Don't you love I don't know if it's outsourcing, but letting other people do your work for you. Oh, this is a good one from Dylan. Jahan Dotson. What's your worryometer? 0 to 10 on Jahan Dotson.
4.
3.
All right, not too much panic there. Who said 6? Heath?
I did.
You're the most worried.
Yeah, I might have had him ranked the highest. That would make sense. It's not been a great start to the season. Terry McLaurin made a spectacular play for his touchdown catch.
Sure did.
I'm not feeling great about Dotson being the number 1 wide receiver in this offense, and I'm not feeling great about rostering the number 2 wide receiver in this offense.
It just feels like there's too much of Diami Brown and Logan Thomas and Curtis Samuel.
John Bates.
John Bates, right.
Yeah, kudos to Sam Howell. He's spreading the ball around, but not good for us when we want to get concentrated targets for these guys.
Right. I'm throw these guys out there. I'm sure they're in the worryometer mentions, but I think we just have to talk about them. Jahmyr Gibbs and Dameon Pierce. Who's higher on your worryometer right now, Gibbs or Pierce?
Pierce
for sure. I mean, you got a bad offensive line, and David Montgomery just got hurt for the Lions. So, if that absence, if there is an absence, then it should help Jahmyr Gibbs. But I think for Pierce, it's now 2 frustrating games, and 3/5 of the offensive line was missing for the Texans today.
Yeah, Pierce is an 11. Gibbs is like a 6 unless Montgomery is hurt, and then he's a 3.
Okay. So if you were redrafting, let's say Gibbs was a 3rd round pick. He was. And I think Pierce was a 4th round pick by the end of it. What round would you take them in a 12-team PPR league?
4 and 5, maybe downgrade it around. I'm not ready to panic to that level.
4 and 6.
Sounds about right. Houston's schedule moving forward: Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, New Orleans, and then a bye. At what point do you think about going after Pierce as a buy low, if at all?
Now,
are there any of those teams a better matchup we think than the Colts?
So I would argue that maybe the Colts are a bad matchup because the last time they had Shaq Leonard, they were terrific against the run, and that was 2 years ago. So I thought there was a chance that they would be very good against the run.
Yeah,
they were both. They were okay against Jaguar. I mean, they had
but
long run to ETN at the end.
How much different does it look if Tunsil's out there and everybody's healthy for the Texans? That's a big part of it. And for what it's worth, if there's anything the Texans take out of this, is that their passing game might be better than we expected.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which Pierce is not involved in. Oh, by the way, it was another 3-headed split at running back for the Texans on Sunday. But it wasn't Mike Boone this time. Daria Gumbawale played 20% of the snaps.
They're trolling us.
Yeah, Dameon Pierce actually played a lower snap share this week than last week.
But was that because of the score? Was that
probably?
Do we think the score is going to be different moving forward?
Right.
You got to kill it. All right. Let's see. Josh Jacobs from Robbie. Josh Jacobs. What was his stat line today? It was like -8 yards.
It was disgusting.
I think it was 9 for -2.
9 for -2, 5 catches for 51 yards.
Worryometer.
3.
See, this is like a worryometer with an asterisk because I'm worried because of what the expectations are.
Right.
So, I'm worried he's going to live up to being a second-round pick.
Is he going to live up to 14 PPR points per game? Because that's where he was every year before last year.
He'll get there.
Next 3 weeks, Steelers, Chargers, Packers. If he's not looking better in that stretch, then I'm going to be really worried. But it's been a tough start to the year.
Yeah, he didn't play on any of the Raider snaps inside the 10 this week because they didn't have any snaps inside the 10 this week.
This was, though, as Pete Prisco, I thought, accurately put it, an ambush for the Raiders.
Yeah,
this was going to be a horrible game for them. So they get their first home game this week. Steelers will be on a short week. So let's see how he does.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a short week. They're playing on back-to-back Mondays, aren't they?
It's Monday night next week.
Oh, no, it's Sunday night. My bad. I thought the Steelers were playing on Monday. It's not. It's Sunday night.
Okay, so I forget, lost my train of thought. Okay, let's how about get a few more here. A lot of Dotson in here. Some Gibbs, Javonte, the Bears running backs. Do we want to address that? I mean, do you guys do you ever feel like you're going to want to start a Bears running back? Not right now.
Not while both are healthy until one separates from the other, but I still think there's, what are you worried about? You worried about these guys that you drafted to really be on your bench?
I'm worried about them being useless. I mean, if I were worried, it would be too valuable to drop, but not good enough to start.
I mean, look, if Zach Moss is on your waiver wire at this point and you want to drop one of these guys for Zach Moss, I get it.
Right.
If you want to drop one for Matt Breida because of Saquon Barkley's injury, I get it. But who's stood out today that's a waiver wire guy that you're dropping those guys for?
Josh Reynolds,
I guess. Yeah, if you need a receiver.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you might want to just play the long game and be patient.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's my point.
Right.
You got to really find somebody out there that's going to help you to punt on players like this. Like Jaylen Warren may have a crappy game against the Browns. I'm not going to drop him yet. For just anybody.
Right.
I think you're adding those waiver wire guys if you need to start them next week. But if you're talking about bench guys, I'd rather just hold on to Roschon or Herbert.
Okay, one more guy here on the worryometer, Kyle Pitts. Parentheses, I knew I shouldn't have drafted him. That was from A Sports. Kyle Pitts.
And I'm laughing about
0 to 10 on the worryometer.
Yeah, I've got him on a bunch of my teams too. How about Jonnu Smith outproducing Kyle Pitts in week number 2?
0 to 10 on the worryometer, Kyle Pitts.
6.
Oh, it's like a 7.
Yeah, I hope next week's his week. It was Drake London's week. Let's hope next week's his week.
Yeah, he's 70% started, 95% rostered. Are we now? I don't know if you guys were already there, but ready to stream over Kyle Pitts.
I'll take another week or two.
I think it depends on who we're talking about, though. Like Laporta, probably. Ferguson, maybe. Those two guys stood out today. In terms of what they've done for 2 weeks, in terms of targets and opportunities in production. For whatever it's worth with those two guys.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think if anybody else stood out. I don't think there really is.
I'm ready to make the change to Taylor Heineke, but they're 2-0, so they're probably not going to do that.
No shot.
I just don't think I don't think Desmond Ritter's the right guy.
Second best passer rating in the NFL in week 1. So okay, we'll take a break here. When we come back, we will recap all of the games, baby. Stay tuned. We'll be right back, baby. All right, we're back. Let's get into the games. Tampa Bay 27. Oh, Heat's going to give us a believe it or not, and I don't have to answer anymore. So Jamie and Dave can say if they.
Am I really?
Yeah, we're going to do that. That's your thing. Podcast exclusive.
Okay.
Tampa Bay 27, Chicago 17.
We're all idiots, and Mike Evans is a number 1 wide receiver again. Believe it or not.
Believe it.
I don't believe that he's a number 1 receiver.
I could say, I don't know that you could ask for a better schedule to start the year, though, with Minnesota and Chicago. Well, how do you guys feel about that aspect of it? Evans
Agreed.
And Philadelphia with the way they look. That's next week.
Potentially, yeah. But that, so what do you do with that? I mean, do you trade him?
Oh, he's a definite sell high for sure. But yes, you start him. I mean, look, if you drafted him in some cases as your third receiver. Like, why would you not be starting him at this point?
Okay, would you trade him for Brandon Ayuk coming off a bad game? Evans or Ayuk? Who'd you rather have?
Evans.
I think it's Evans.
Is Ayuk okay? He left 2 different times with the shoulder.
Oh, I only knew he left once. I don't know.
Yeah, Evans for me.
All right. Rachaad White, nice game. Joe Boo, Dave, you showed up.
He did. Bears defense will do that for
Snyder's
you.
words to heart.
I don't love the upcoming schedule here. Eagles, Saints, bye week, Lions for Rachaad White.
I would like to sell high on that.
All right, yeah.
He's a sell high for sure.
Okay. Would you oh man, who could you turn him into? Can't turn him into Jahmyr Gibbs. Damian Pierce.
Rachaad White and Puka Nacua into Jamar Chase.
There you go.
I don't know. You're losing the best player in the deal.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's. Anything else from this game?
I think Jacob feels about that trade now.
What was the trade? He gave up Puka for Chase?
No, he gave up Puka, Devontae Smith, Breece Hall, and some other receiver of significance. Ayuk.
I remember this.
Considering that Jacob has like 110% exposure to Puka, I think he's probably okay with it.
All right. I think we already talked about Justin Fields and the Bears running backs. DJ Moore had a nice game. You think he's going to be a start next week for you at Kansas City?
DJ Moore?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Must start.
Number 3.
I think he's going to be somewhere between 20 and 28 in the rankings.
All right. Baltimore 27, Cincinnati 24.
Believe it or not, Jamar Chase should have been on the worryometer.
Nope. Don't believe it. You can put him on there. We'd give him a 1 or a 2.
I feel like he had I know the team had a slow start last year, but I think Chase, I remember us saying buy low last year. Do we have any fear that he's not an elite player?
Is Joe Burrow going to take any time off?
Right. So that would obviously
It doesn't sound like it, but
matter.
you never know.
Yeah, it's weird. Last week I went for Diggs for Chase, and it was declined, and right now I'm feeling a little relief.
Jamar Chase had 10 catches for 129 yards and a touchdown in week number 1. So
Okay,
I don't remember him having a slow start to.
What was that? What about after that? Did he have a kind of a?
He had a bad game against Dallas, and then against the Jets, he scored 6 catches, 29 yards, a total of 35 targets in his first 3 games.
I mean, he had a touchdown in his hands that got ripped out.
Yeah, we mentioned that.
All right, let's see what else here. Lamar Jackson with a nice. God, this new desk situation is not working out for me. Nice bounce back game for him.
I can't wait to see your new background.
I think I'm just going to use the same background, isn't it?
But just a different wall?
Yeah, different house. What do you think about the Ravens receivers? Nelson Aguilar with the big game today. Andrews had 8 targets. I believe that was a team high. But Flowers, luckily, he had a long catch, a 52-yard gain. But I don't know. I mean, Dave, your overall thoughts on the Ravens receivers?
I think Lamar had a solid game, not a great game. He did have a couple of nice throws in there, but there was a lot that didn't go right for the Ravens offense. And to be fair, he was playing behind an offensive line minus 2 starters. When he did run, a lot of it came in the second half. It was kind of smart when he did it. I think he's obviously a must-start fantasy quarterback moving forward. I wonder if you could approach the Fields manager with Lamar if you wanted to and try and sell very high on Lamar. Don't trade him just to trade him unless you think he's going to stink against the Colts next week, then Browns, Steelers after that. I'm not saying to sell high on Lamar Jackson, but if you can sell very high, I might try it. I might do it.
You're saying sell Lamar for Fields?
No. Do not do that.
Oh,
no, I'm sorry if that it came off that way. No, you're trading Lamar and you're going to get a starter at another position.
Lamar or Burrow rest of the season?
I like Lamar better to start the season, so I would take Lamar.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, and obviously if Burrow is hurt, you can't say Burrow.
Yeah. All right, so that's it for that game. T. Higgins, nice bounce back game for him.
What about the running backs? Don't you think we should talk about that?
Well, we just can't talk about everyone. We actually already talked about the Ravens running backs.
Okay.
Mixon, though, that's okay. Mixon had another, pretty a good. He's off to a good start, just not putting up huge numbers.
It's not scoring.
Yeah, 13 carries in each game is low, but they really haven't. They're probably not running that many plays, my guess. Or not. Yeah, I don't know. Bad game scripts. Atlanta 25, Green Bay 24. Jordan Love, by the way, is 77% rostered. He has now scored 26 or more points in each game. What's our believe it or not for this one?
Well, I mean, he was 14 of 25 for 151 yards. It was very fortunate that he had 3 touchdown passes. But the believe it or not is Jaden Reed will be better than Romeo Dobbs rest of season.
No,
I don't believe it. I'd like to know what percentage of snaps Dobbs played. I'm going to look that up real quick.
I would like to know how Jordan Love will look when Christian Watson's playing.
Yeah. Was Dobbs even on the injury report Friday, though? I thought he had a clear.
I don't think he was.
He was
let's
clear,
see if he was a full-time player. Let's see.
Oh.
Hold on.
Well, this is enthralling stuff here, but yeah, Jaden
36 of 47 snaps. So yes, he was a full-time player.
I wonder where AJ Terrell lined up.
I don't know if I've got that right now.
Okay. Anyway, Dobbs, huge disappointment, 84% rostered, but not a great day for Love passing the ball except for the touchdowns, but only 151 yards. And Atlanta possessed the ball for over 36 minutes, so Green Bay didn't run that many plays. On the other side of the ball, I don't even know what to say about Bijan Robinson. He's absolutely incredible. And every time they give it to Algier, it's like they're hurting their chances of winning. I'm sorry. Not to say that Bijan should get every carry, but it was the fourth quarter and they were about to start their game-winning drive. And Algier gets a carry. I'm just like, what are you doing? These are too important. Stop.
He had 23 touches in the game. Like when you're going to run the ball 75 times, you got to split it.
He should not touch the ball in the fourth quarter, like, ever. That's
then you have to have more carries in the first, second, and third. Then,
all right. Bijan's just so good. He is
great
to football.
They had 45 rush attempts in this game.
Huh. And Ritter had 10 of them.
They crushed time of possession. They did what the Falcons do. The fact that they ran it 35 times and Ritter still threw 32 times is a damn miracle for the Falcons.
Well, they ran 48 plays in week 1. I think they ran 72 this week. So,
okay. I think you pretty much know what to do with the Falcons. We'll just have to play the Drake London game every week. Indianapolis 31, Houston 20.
We talked about Moss. We talked about Pierce. We talked about Tank.
Talk about Richardson because I know he's got the concussion, but hopefully that's not a long-term thing. So how are you guys valuing him? He scored. I don't even know how many he's.
I don't think I need to say believe it or not, but we all agree that Anthony Richardson is a must-start quarterback whenever he plays, right?
Yeah.
You there yet?
Yeah. Yeah, you start him.
There it is.
What do you think you would have finished with? 30?
I don't know. The problem is you got a lot of fantasy managers that are going to have Richardson and someone really good. So Heath and I got into it this morning, Richardson or Herbert, and I said Herbert in 4-point, and you thought I was being unreasonable.
I want to clarify that because it was not that you thought Herbert in 4-point. It was the disdain with which you said right after I answered the question, start Herbert. Like you just dismissed what I had said. That was my issue.
Oh, okay.
It was not that you chose
Herbert. It wasn't personal. But going into week 2, I didn't think Richardson was yet to be in Justin Herbert's weight class. Herbert had a good game, thankfully. But sure, I think that's going to be the tough part. But if you don't have one of those guys, yeah, you just start at Richardson. Hopefully he's back soon. What about Minshew, guys? I mean,
look good.
Yeah.
Always does.
Always produced. All right, we'll see what happens.
Make a call.
We'll talk about that later in the week. On the other side of the ball, anyone have any interest in Robert Woods? He's had at least 11.7 PPR points, at least 9 targets and 6 catches in each of the games.
And yet he hasn't
got receivers.
Yeah, he's not even close to being their top receiver. I think Nico Collins deserves some love here.
Yeah,
because he looks like Tank Dell, speedy for sure. We'll see if he can keep up a 7-catch pace. But Nico Collins now, 2 straight weeks, has been the number 1 guy for Houston. And I don't see that changing. I think he's going to be a useful fantasy starter as at least a high-end flex. until he's not. And I think
But
it
Tank Dell's
lasts a
first
while.
game without Noah Brown was good.
Right. Kansas City 17, Jacksonville 9. Terrific job by Ian Eagle making a blank space reference when Travis Kelce caught a touchdown. Heath, what's our believe it or not for Chiefs-Jags?
I struggle with this one because it was such a huge disappointment, I thought, from the Jacksonville side of things. The Chiefs didn't play well at all. Had 100 yards and penalties. And I guess, believe it or not, Calvin Ridley is not actually a number 1 wide receiver, fantasy-wise.
No.
You believe he still is?
I believe he is a high-end number 2.
High number 2, yeah.
You got it. You can't say no. You're confusing. Yes, believe it or not. I don't believe it.
I believe it, yes. He's not a number 1 wide receiver.
Those double negatives get really
Yeah,
messed up.
But he had about 7 almost touchdowns.
They like Zay Jones, I think, had 2. I think Ridley had 2 or 3. They had a bunch of balls they threw through the back of the end zone.
Yep. Trevor Lawrence, bad.
Yeah, he struggled. Also, I think it's worth mentioning. I'm counting it now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5 carries for Pacheco on the final drive of the game of his 12. So it's a weird game.
The other thing, Kadarius Toney looked so good with the ball in his hand and I don't know what his snap count was, Dave, but I can't think of another explanation other than he doesn't know the offense because he's just not playing for large stretches of the game.
Yeah, fun because that's what the case was in New York too. He played 19 snaps, 19 of 64 snaps.
It's
for Kadarius Toney.
I don't understand it.
Drop or
30%.
stash. Drop or stash, Kadarius Toney.
I'm holding him. I'm a sucker.
I don't know
dropping
when
him
you'll
for
feel
Josh
good
Reynolds.
starting him.
Dropping for Josh Reynolds, Jamie
Yeah.
says.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know when in the world you would
Well,
feel good starting Kadarius Toney.
I'll give the hypothesis. Like he learns the offense and starts playing 50 snaps a week, and he's going to be a top 20 wide receiver.
So I don't want to just assume that he doesn't learn that he doesn't know the
Okay. So what?
Because I did read, I think it was a Giants beat reporter or something saying that, the Giants viewed him as a gadget player. And that might be a possibility too, that he's just not a legit every down wide receiver. He's a guy that you have to script plays for, basically.
Right.
Okay.
And
I didn't
they
mean to
want him to
insinuate
actually
anything
laugh.
negative by that. He's
I
so
understand.
good with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, he's excited. By the way, Sky Moore had a pretty big game.
Yeah, I don't think we should forget about Sky Moore. Awesome.
What do you have, 3
touchdown
targets?
catch.
Yeah, no, pretty big game. He had a touchdown and a big catch.
Okay, but he had 70 yards and a touchdown. So that shows up in the box score. That's
Right. Like it's promising.
I was just bringing it up basically so you can dismiss it if you wanted to dismiss it. But I did feel like it needed to be brought up.
Look, it's encouraging because after a disappearing act in the preseason and a disappearing act in week 1, he was statistically their best wide receiver. But, how much faith do you have in him? So if the question is Sky Moore or Kadarius Toney, I guess, I'll flip-flop and say go back to Sky Moore this week just because he was the better of the two and seemingly going to play a lot more. But, I mean, Richie James has the muff punt, so what does that mean for his playing time moving forward in any capacity? Kadarius Toney, like he said, seems like he's lost out there. So how much are they going to trust him after supporting him all week long following the drops? I mean, they got to figure this out. There's definitely something that's got to come from this group that makes some semblance of, okay, these guys are the 3 that we're going to go with, or the 2 along with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I mean, hopefully it's Raji Rice, and he's the one that steps up and starts to play like the guy that, they drafted him to be. But you know how it is with rookie receivers here. So there's going to be mixing and matching. I don't think there's any Chiefs receiver you can look at and say, I'm going to be comfortable and happy starting this guy week to week.
Do you feel like you're going to be comfortable starting Christian Kirk week to week?
More than those guys, obviously.
Yeah. Separate conversation here, though, because he follows up a 1-catch game with 11 catches for 110 yards on 14 targets.
I don't know if it's going to be like this every week. Certainly next week against Houston seems like a game where Jacksonville might be able to take their foot off the gas and run it. So I don't know if I'll love him next week.
I don't know how to. How do I value Christian Kirk after one?
I think he's in the flex conversation from week to week.
Okay. Tennessee 27, Chargers 24.
Oof. Ryan Tannehill has something left in the tank, believe it or not.
Great throw to Burks. 70-yard catch.
Believe it or not.
I don't think it matters. Great. He's got something left in the tank. He totaled 2 touchdowns.
You know what? Let's give
I'm
Heath
not
a
starting
shot
him.
here. I think you can do it better, believe it or not.
No, what would you like? Derrick Henry's a top
Give me
5
DeAndre
running back again,
Hopkins
and we're all
went for
dummies.
four for
Give me a
40
Mike
today.
Williams or
Let's talk
DeAndre
about
Hopkins.
him.
Give me a Williams or a Hopkins, believe it or not.
Well, Hopkins was hurt. Like, I don't think there's much to say about that. Mike
Believe it.
Williams is a boom bust number 3 wide receiver. We all know that.
I don't know. I mean,
Like, these things are obvious.
is that obvious? Is Mike Williams just a boom bust number 3 wide receiver?
If this is what he is, I'll take it.
May I try my hand at a believe it or not?
Please, Dave.
Believe it or not, you should sell high on Justin Herbert. This is as good as he's going to get.
Oh, now Minnesota and Vegas coming up.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I just wanted to put it out there.
I like that. It's okay.
He's underwhelmed a little
Glad
bit.
you
I mean,
like
this was
that
a
one,
good
Adam.
game.
Because we all agree in the opposite direction. It's much better.
Well, what do you mean? You could. I think you have to have some not believe it's right. You got to keep people honest.
I have lots of not believe it's.
I would like the Chargers to get a new coach.
That would be nice.
All right, Heath. What do we got for Buffalo and Las Vegas?
We talked about Josh Jacobs. James Cook is a must-start running back.
Believe it.
Yeah.
James Cook with 21 touches and 159 total yards. I think I did that math right. Great.
But Adam's going to say his biggest run came at the end of the game when the game was out of hand.
No, look, he's really good, but it is really frustrating. I can't believe how many goal-to-go opportunities they had. And it was Harris. James Cook got in there, I think, once. So I do want to know what you guys think about that. It is,
I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it either. But what does it mean for James Cook's value?
As he
16
said during the
snaps
week,
and
the
such.
touchdowns will come.
Yeah, I don't think you're starting him hoping that he finds the end zone when Latavius and Damian Harris each played 6 of 16 snaps inside the 10.
I just think if he's going to handle more than half of their rush attempts, and he's going to catch 4 passes a week, you're okay if he only scores from outside the red zone.
Yeah. How many touches did he have in week 1? I want to say it was 16.
It was 17. 12 carries, 5 catches.
Okay, so 17
No, I'm
touches
sorry, you're
in
right.
week
16
1.
was 12 carries, 4 catches on 5 targets.
So 16.
Yep.
16 in week 1, 21 touches in week 2. These guys, these are the types of players you want starting in fantasy, but not with like grand expectations. Because yes, the touchdowns will come, but they'll be from like 15 yards out, 35 yards out. You're not going to get any of the short
score
yardage.
6, 7 touchdowns tops for the season, but still, if you're going to get a 1,200, 1,300 total yard guy, that's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How about 4 of the 5 Bills touchdowns? Damian Harris, Latavius Murray, Khalil Shakir, Dawson Knox.
Weird game. I think this is honestly, I think, a reasonable question. Otherwise I wouldn't ask it. Let's say David Montgomery misses 1 game. He has a thigh bruise, it seems. So that's not, I thought it was a serious knee injury. But if it's a thigh bruise, would you rather have Jahmyr Gibbs or James Cook?
If it's just 1 game,
Well, who are they playing?
I still believe in Gibbs.
No, I mean rest of season. Rest of season, would you rather have Gibbs or James Cook?
Gibbs.
I'd rather have
I'll take-
Gibbs.
I'll take Cook.
All right, let's go to Seattle 37 and Detroit 31. I'm not sure there's anything we haven't covered here.
No, we just talked about the Lions running backs, Josh Reynolds, Gino.
Goff, we didn't really get to Goff, Jamie. 28.9 fantasy points. Big day for him.
It was in first interception and 369 pass attempts.
Did he break the record or did he fall short?
No, he fell short.
Third.
So I don't think he had a chance to break the record though today. So, yeah, I mean, look, he's doing very well at home. That's the case. Whenever he's been at home, last season over 26 fantasy points per game. This season got off to a good start. So, next week you're starting him at home.
I have a Saquon Barkley update. The Giants believe Saquon Barkley suffered an ankle sprain. It could have been much worse, according to Schultz report. So probably don't expect him this week. Thursday night. All right. Let's see. All right, we're good with that game. San Francisco 30, Rams 23. I think we are now on
though. I don't know if you guys talked about him. Another solid performance.
2 straight games with 5 catches for Sam Laporta.
Yep.
All right, San Francisco 30 and the Rams 23. And
I have a great Dave story for this game.
Oh, really? Believe it.
So we're watching the game, and the Rams, Matthew Stafford throws a pick, and they're up by 10. And Dave fist pumps because he thinks he has the cover for the picks. For our picks column. And then lo and behold,
with 4 seconds left in the game,
down 10.
Sean McVay
knew exactly what he was doing.
Helping
those bettors out. Gets the cover. Brett Maher with the field goal.
What was the spread?
8.
How'd you guys do this?
Dave had a very I don't think he realized I saw him. Dave had a very subtle fist pump when they went on by 10.
Oh no. I didn't make my picks in my pick'em.
Oh,
yes, I did. Yes, I did. Okay.
How do you forget to do that?
No, I did. It said incomplete, but that's only because there are still 2 games left. I have 7 correct so far. Out of how many? 13? That's okay. That's not bad. All right. What's our believe it or not for 49ers Rams?
Kyron Williams is a must-start running back.
Believe it.
I believe it.
20 touches?
Yeah.
24 opportunities.
Not against San Francisco. Should we believe it or not? Matt Breida is going to own this run defense in week 3.
I do not believe that.
No.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones might, though. He might run for 100 yards.
Run for more than he throws. All right. Debo or Ayuk, rest of season?
Debo.
I guess I'll say Debo too.
Do you think we should be streaming tight ends over George Kittle? Not dropping Kittle, but sitting him.
Not yet.
You could carry a second tight end with Kittle.
I'll say the same thing I said about Pitts. If you want to go with Ferguson, if you want to go with Laporta, you want to go with who's the other one?
Are you running away from Musgrave? He got off to a decent start and then kind of did the vanishing act.
I would be more concerned about Musgrave, the fact that Jaden Reed had this game and then Christian Watson's coming back. So now you have those 3 receivers.
No, I get that.
All right. So
they're running away from Higbee.
So, sorry, Kyron Williams looking like a must start right now. Would you are you going to pick up Tutu Atwell? He's 48% rostered and he has had 13 catches in 2 games.
Absolutely.
Would you drop Quentin Johnston for Tutu Atwell?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I would. In redraft, yeah.
If you need a starter, then you move for Atwell. But if you've decided to use that roster spot for somebody for the rest of the season, I'd rather have Quentin Johnston. Here's the one factor about the Rams that everybody needs to keep in mind. Matthew Stafford's how old? 35? That offensive line isn't that great. If he goes down, all of these players are going down with him. Kyron Williams is going down.
I think the biggest thing you got to keep in mind
Luke
is
going
Cup.
down.
Yeah.
Right.
Not so much Matthew Stafford. It's Cup comes back.
But
everything's all
Cup
thrown
goes
away.
down too. If Stafford gets hurt, this whole thing blows up.
Okay, but how many teams would you say that about their quarterback, though?
We can say that about a lot, but not all of them have 35-year-old quarterbacks playing behind average offensive lines. So it's fun to get excited about Nakua and Kyron Williams. It's fun to go ahead and get Tutu Atwell. I'm heading for the hills on Higbee. I'm done. But if Stafford gets hurt, I think it's a legit problem for any of these guys. It's kind of like my rationale. If I can sell high on Nakua, if I can sell high on Kyron Williams, I would do it. But it's high. Again, I'm not turning him
So
into
where are
nothing.
you on the Bengals guys then with Burrow with his calf injury or the Dolphins?
We don't know how serious the Burrow calf injury is, but if he's fine and ends up playing, I'm fine with Burrow. I would love to get Chase on the cheap. I don't think I can. I think I can get Mixon on the cheap to a degree.
I just think any receiving core is going to be in Poopsville if their starting quarterback goes down.
Sure, but
Just
you
look at-
understand
look
what
at
I'm
Jets.
saying about why Stafford is a
Right,
little
he's
bit more
saying
vulnerable.
Stafford's more vulnerable to that.
Yeah.
I understand. I think I feel like maybe we are underplaying this Bengals situation, though, and we probably should talk about it later in the week. But it is a little scary right now that Joe Burrow isn't 100% and just re-aggravated a calf injury. So let's take some time to digest it. I'll bring it up later in the week, and we can talk about it on Wednesday, I think. Because obviously we got to get to what I think was the biggest comeback in Giants history. I might be wrong about that.
Since 1950.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. Giants fan over there. Giants 31, Arizona 28.
It was an epic comeback over a worthy opponent. The Giants proved they are not the worst team in the NFL, and that's important. Believe it or not, you should sit all Giants, including Darren Waller, this week against the 49ers.
You can't say
I
Waller.
don't believe it.
No.
Yeah, not Waller.
Okay.
I think you had everyone until the Waller thing.
Everyone, so you're sitting Daniel Jones, but not Darren Waller.
Yeah.
I think you can get away from Jones.
Yeah. Jones ends up with 34.7 fantasy points.
Great day.
Wild game. I am interested to see if they'll try to get Jalen Hyatt more involved, but he only had 2 targets. On the other side, James Conner was awesome in this game.
Yes.
So how do we feel about him going forward? Just kind of start him? Just
Top 15 running back as long as he's healthy.
4.4 yards per carry last week, 4.6 yards per carry today.
Yeah, he doesn't look bad.
He's got some juice right now. I don't know how long it'll last. By November it might be a problem, but it's good right now.
But this Cardinals team has hung around now 2 straight games.
Yeah, against 2 bad teams.
And
Yeah, but this is,
they
as
did.
a Cardinals fan, this is what you want. Keep it exciting.
Yeah.
Fun to cheer for a little bit, then you lose, and you still get that draft pick.
Oh, I almost congratulated them after blowing that game. I don't know how they blew it, but it was the best thing that could have happened to their organization.
Schaefer is killing it with the lower thirds today. I mean, it was Falcons send the Green Bay packing earlier. Schneier, Azer rally Giants to be.
Dan was so happy. Like he was kind of crying a little bit in the first quarter, and then he was just so happy.
I do think the Giants are going to be one of the best matchups in fantasy. They are the Bears right now defensively. Do you want to say anything about Marquise Brown? He had 6 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown. Last week he was dreadful with 28 yards, although he did have 28 rushing as well. But Marquise Brown, 31% started this week. And next week they have Dallas. Oh, no.
Who do they play after Dallas? Maybe that matchup's
better. Oh, it's San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
No.
I will say, though, you want to talk about streaming tight ends. It's back-to-back 6-catch weeks for Zach Ertz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, in the first game, Dobbs overthrew him in the end zone. Should have had a touchdown. In this game, he got him like laid out on a deep ball. It could have had like a 50-yard catch.
This is to Ertz?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised that Josh Dobbs is off target.
I know. I knew you were going to say that. Well said. Dallas 30, Jets 10. What do we got, Heath?
Oof. Believe it or not, you lucked out 1 week with Garrett Wilson. Don't start him again as long as Zach Wilson's the quarterback.
Sure,
I
I'll
believe it in
believe
2
that.
receiver leagues.
It's funny though because he had an 83. Oh, you mean this week you lucked out?
You
Like,
lucked out this week. Don't risk it again.
I see.
There are 2 things the Jets should do this week. Number 1, get Breece Hall ready for a big workload because that's somebody who could help them win. And number 2, turn over every rock on the planet to find a quarterback better than Zach Wilson.
I don't know if they want to risk Breece Hall. Like we knew coming into this year that we should expect a limited workload early in the year.
Would you like to know his snap share?
No, I don't want to throw up right now. He had 4 carries.
You don't want to know.
He had the ball for 17 minutes and 45 seconds. Can we? All right. Who would you rather have rest of season, Garrett Wilson or Breece Hall?
Wilson.
Wilson.
Because it's not going to be Zach Wilson for much longer.
James Cook or Breece Hall?
Cook.
But I was drafting it that way.
I know, but then Breece Hall had such an encouraging week one. Thought maybe things may have changed.
So did James Cook, though.
I
Breece
know.
Hall just had bigger plays.
It's cool, man. I'm just asking. CeeDee Lamb is awesome, and he's the only player on the. And Ferguson, I mean, Dak throws to his tight ends in the end zone. It just a lot. Ferguson caught one today, and
They had a stupid end around to Peyton Hendershot.
Yeah, I know. Didn't another tight end catch a touchdown today? Who else caught one? Or is that it?
Schoonmaker caught a touchdown.
He did. Okay.
Schoonmaker. I'm not sure.
I think it's Schoon, but I'm not
Jaguars.
sure. Jaguars 35. That was very funny, by the way. Washington 35, Denver 27. Heath, last game.
Denver scored 33.
I did this. I did the notes before the Hail Mary. My bad. But I did update the stats. I didn't update the score. Washington 35, Denver 33. Heath.
Believe it or not, the Broncos are not going to have a top 25 wide receiver.
Don't believe it.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
Who do you think it will be?
I think Judy. I don't want to write him off after one game coming off of an injury against a really good defense.
Yeah, Heath, you pointed out on the show this morning that Judy has a bad history in his first game back from injury. He had a quiet game. We talked about the Broncos running backs. Nobody's adding Marvin Mims, are they? 2 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown, but those were his only 2 targets.
I dropped him in 2 leagues today, and I was like, oh, God. But yeah, it's tough. I think as those other guys get better, as Judy gets better, then, Mims will have games like this, but then a lot of disappearing acts. But it was fun to watch.
All right, Brian Robinson is absolutely dominating carries and touches for this team.
He's fantastic.
55-45 on snap share. Gibson played more on 3rd and 4th downs and inside the 10.
Wow.
Javonte or Brian Robinson rest of season?
Javonte.
Brian Robinson.
I'll say Javonte.
Dave, I think we should really do can you do inside the 3 or inside the 5 instead of the 10? No, I'm serious because I think, you don't score a lot from the 8-yard line. And I think sometimes I do see this with teams. I mean, they have a goal line back, 3 yards and closer back kind of. And I wonder because Robinson had 2 touchdowns. And I wonder if he was really used very close to the goal line more than Gibson. I don't mean just for this game.
No, I know what you're saying.
If you think maybe it's more valuable to do inside the 5 than the 10.
I really want to hear what Sean Payton said about Russell Wilson in this game.
Why?
Because that fumble turned the game.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
I think I saw it. Yeah, I saw it.
So one of the reasons why I do inside the 10 instead of inside the 3 is Washington had 1 snap inside the 3.
Yeah.
And so Robinson had it.
100% of the snaps inside the 3.
What color zone would that be, Adam? Because we got the green zone, the reds is the...
Oh, inside the 3?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like the hot pink zone?
That would be... I tried the magenta zone and nobody liked it. They hated me for it. So I'm done.
That wasn't why we hated you.
Well, why'd you hate me? Just for any reason? Myriad? All right, well, that's it for today's show. Tomorrow we have Beyond the Box Score. We'll recap Miami and New England, and we will, get you into the advanced stats and the snap shares and all these things. And Jake, every time I think I'm doing some intricate research on something advanced, Jacob Gibbs is like 10 steps ahead of me. So you need to hear what he has to say. Dan will break down some film, and we'll get your 5 big topics for Monday's show. So appreciate that. And then Monday night, we have a live stream at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So we'll see you then. For Heath and Dave and Jamie and Thomas, I am Adam. Hope you had a great week too. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today.